Hi there, guys. I didn't think that I was going to return so soon after my previous video with the where with the theme song awards, but I saw a video last night that got me very interested. It was Matthew Smith who issued a challenge to us, and I felt I wanted to jump right on that train and then do a response. Uh, He wanted us to show our favorite or mention our favorite artists from each decade from the 20th to until today, and I felt it was very interesting. So I wanted to make a try on this one. I managed to find artists from each decade, and believe it or not, I also managed to find records from every artist, with exceptions from three artists all over today. So let's go on with it. The weather here in Sundsvall is not that sunny. It's pretty gray. It's been raining heavy yesterday. But still, it's a good weather to sit on a balcony and show some records. 20th, and here is this from 20th to 50th will be a lot of jazz. Anybody surprised? No, I thought so. Fletcher Henderson, uh, by many called the father of big band. He is one of the earliest uh, big band leaders, and I like him very much, especially when he went from the more Dixieland-oriented music till big band. And I really like this early earliest form of big band from the late 20s and the early 30s. So Fletcher Henderson, big band leader and also a great arranger and composer later on. Make some room here. It was a long time ago since I showed a 78 record. I showed it when me and Mr. Majo wanted us to show our 78s. But now is a good time, if any. This Don Redman, great also early big band leader, had a great band, was a great arranger later on. This is Chant of the Weeds and Shaking the African. Duke Ellington. I said that before that I'm not a huge fan of Duke Ellington, but with one exception. I really like Duke Ellington in his earliest form, in his first band when he played at the Cotton Club in the late 20s. That Duke Ellington was really great. That's the Duke Ellington band, in my opinion, that was the best. No matter how many take the A trains or Satin Doll he makes, it was at his best in the Cotton Club era. Now we're coming to a band that not many of you have heard of. McKinney's Cotton Pickers. I heard this band in radio when I was a child and really liked the song My Blackbirds Are Bluebirds Now. This is an album that I managed to find, released on RCA Victor black and white label with songs from 1928. Really great band in the crisscross between swing and early big band. Moving on to the 30s, and the big band started to become bigger, and they started to get the forms that we know them today, which led to several musicians coming out, such as Count Basie, an artist that I like very much. I didn't like him that much as a teenager because he's not a great piano player. He's a kind of boring piano player, and he has admitted that himself, that he's not much of a piano player. He's a background player. But he is a marvelous band leader. Has one of the best organized bands I ever heard. So I like him very much. And go on a little faster. 30s also was the decade when they started to do smaller bands. When they started to do swing with smaller bands, and also a lot of musicians became classic that jumped between bands and played both with smaller bands and the big bands. One of them that I'm a huge fan of is Coleman Hawkins, tenor saxophone player. Coleman Hawkins, easy to recognize as a saxophone player. He has a very, very special sound in his saxophone. This is, I could have picked any Coleman Hawkins album, but I choose this one. This CD actually. This contains, I found this in Stockholm, it contains recordings that he did in 1937-38 in Paris. So it's just recordings from France with Coleman Hawkins. It's a very, very great album. Another guy that also does both smaller bands and big bands is a trumpet player that I've learned to love very, very much. Buck Clayton, one of the band members also of Count Basie's band. And Count Basie also is part of this record. But it's a great trumpet player, and this is a 4 CD box containing just music with Buck Clayton. 40s, more big bands, more bands, even though the jazz scene started to change. Of course, I wanted to have Benny Goodman with me. In my jazz video before, I said that Benny Goodman is one of my absolute favorites because he can play most of the things, and he does it really, really good, and he also has one of the best big bands. However, this time I chose a small band session. This is Benny Goodman Sextet featuring Charlie Christian, honorable mention of the 40s artists. 40s also Lester Young, another saxophone player that I like very, very much. This is an awesome record, Master Takes, released in Savoy. More big bands, even though the big bands started to change. I showed this guy in a jazz video before also, Boyd Rayburn, band leader that is very forgotten today, but was very ahead of his time when it comes to being modern. He stands with one foot in classical big band style and one other foot in more modern style, influenced by modern classical music. I really like him. This is a live recording, little rare record, live recording from radio. Then the jazz scene changed really, and the bebop music started to be more and more popular, which made way for Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie. I didn't pick them out here. I picked another trumpet player that I feel is just in the same label as Dizzy Gillespie, even though it's much more forgotten. Fats Navarro. Really like him very, very much. Too bad he died all too young in the 40s, and his name is pretty much forgotten today. But this is a live recording from live CD from Royal Roast. So like him very, very much. Now moving on to the 50s and 50s rock. Nah. We're going to continue with the jazz music. 50s and now it's a little more modern jazz, cool jazz. Earl Swoop, no, Leonard Tristano. This is an album with Earl Swoop Sextet. Leonard Tristano, I've showed him before. Is my absolute favorite jazz pianist, marvelous piano player. This is one of the best jazz records ever. This is recordings from the 40s, unfortunately, but Leonard Tristano himself is a little more 50s in my book, even though this is from the 40s. So Leonard Tristano, the 50s. 50s also Lars Gullin, Swedish baritone saxophone player that I like very, very much. Guy that quickly started to play more modern jazz music. He has also done some music where he mixes Swedish folk music and jazz music. This is a collection with music from 59 to 60. here is two for the price of one. This is two artists that I wanted to have in the 50s on the same record. Were a perfect moment. Stan Getz, tenor saxophone player that I like very, very much. I have a lot of records with him. He is a magnificent tenor saxophone player. And Oscar Peterson is not on in a picture here, but Oscar Peterson, a piano player that I like very, very much. He can play almost anything from swing to bebop to cool. He is a great piano player. This is an album released on Verve with Stan Getz and Oscar Peterson trio. Now we're coming to a decade that I had a very much problem with, the 60s. I don't listen all that much to 60s music. Of course, there are certain artists that is pretty good, but Elvis and Beatles, no problem with them. But it's not what I listen mostly to. So I listen to 60s Swedish schlagers, but not many of you knows any artists from that. But I managed to pick out one jazz guy and two of 60s schlagers that I like very much. Jazz, normally from the 60s, is a little too modern for me. I'm not into that much hard bop or free jazz or something like that. But 60s for me is Jimmy Smith, the Hammond player legend. This is Hoochie Coochie Man, released on Verve, with the orchestra conducted by Oliver Nelson. Jimmy Smith's marvelous organist, Hammond organist. I think I showed a lot of records with him in my Hammond organ video. Now we're coming to artists that not many have heard. They sung in Swedish, but I like them very much. Hootenanny Singers. Hootenanny Singers is a band that is today most famous for being the band that Björn Ulvaeus from ABBA started in. They do some light pop schlager music combined with elements from Swedish folk music, and I like them very, very much. They sing very much in chorus, and like them very, very much. This is an album, a classic album, where they have put music to Swedish poet Dan Andersson in a marvelous way. This artist you may have heard of, Agneta Fältskog of ABBA. ABBA is not on here in any form, but ABBA singers Agneta Fältskog and Frida, in my opinion, were at their best when they did solo albums. And in Agneta Fältskog's case, she was at her best before ABBA. In the 60s, when she was very, very young and recorded really sweet Schlager songs, and with a lot of broken heart. And this is her second album from '69, containing the classic Sienna Friend, Gypsy Friend. So this is a really, really marvelous album, and I really like Agneta Fältskog's voice, but she was at her best as solo. 70s, my new favorite decade. Was a little problem because I haven't been a 70s fan all that long, so I haven't managed to get all that big 70s collection. So I wanted to have Marvin Gaye with, but I didn't have any records with him. But I can mention him. Marvin Gaye, marvelous artist. Chicago, also the 70s band that I like very much. I could have put him in the 60s, but I chose to have him in the 70s. This is the album number 3 from 1970. 70s also, America. Great band. I'll always like the song Horse with No Name, but I have realized today that they're much more than that. It's a fantastic band that I like very, very much. This is Holiday from 1974. 70s soul music, I mentioned a lot of times. I listened very much to that today, and wanted to have that something with that. Mentioned Marvin Gaye, but I wanted to have Stevie Wonder along. Marvelous artist. I could have picked him in the 80s and the 60s as well, but I think he was maybe at his best in the 70s as funkiest. Really, really awesome artist. The 80s was a problem. Not that I have any problem choosing or finding 80s artists. The problem was to actually which one I'm going to choose. I had so many that I wanted to have. Adam Lee mentioned a lot of 80s artists, but I managed to pick out 4 after hard thinking. Depeche Mode, of course. Great band, my absolute favorite band. I think you have realized that by now. It's almost like what Madonna is to Adam Lee, Depeche Mode is to me, but I wanted to have them along. Level 42 is a band that I mentioned a lot of times before. This is a live album, A Physical Presence, Part 1. From 1985, fantastic live album. And Madonna. I wanted to bring along a Mount Rushmore if Mount Rushmore would been having a 5th head, but now there's only 4 presidents there, so I pick her here instead. Great artist with a really perfection when it comes to pop music. Could have picked any album, but I wanted to be a little original, so I picked You Can Dance remix album. Here's the Swedish band I mentioned in Adam Lee's male artist contest. Kvarn with the singer Plura Jonsson. This is a very special album where they did a concert session at in Stockholm, where they had called Circus Broadway at Circus in Stockholm. They put together a lot of artists that they like from the 80s, Swedish artists from the 80s that they like, and made them do a concert session where they played covers on different Swedish rock songs, and with Kvarn both performing on their own and as a background musicians to these artists. You have Swedish classics like Peter Lemark, you have Natatå, Marie Fredriksson from Roxette, Thåström and so on. So this is a marvelous live rock album. Kvarn is definitely awesome 80s band for me. 90s, I showed a lot of 90s lately in my 90s video, but Peter Lemark I mentioned a couple of times. This is Det finns inget bättre, There's Nothing Better from 92. Awesome Swedish musician and singer. I also did a whole video with this band, but of course I want to have some Pet Shop Boys. Both Peter Lemark and Pet Shop Boys I could have had in the 80s, but I realized that the 80s was kind of full, so I put them in the 90s because Pet Shop Boys did a couple of their best albums in the 90s also. This is Behavior, one of them from 1990. Now, moving on to CD. 90s. Show the records with this band in my 90s video. Chemical Brothers. Check out the channel watchmojo.com. And they're having they're doing charts of everything every day, and they recently did a chart of 10 best Chemical Brothers songs. Chemical Brothers, awesome band, big beat band. This is Surrender from 99. Also 90s, U96, German techno legend. Really like him very much. Really danceable and awesome production. This is Replugged from 93. Now we're coming into the toughest part, besides from the 60s. Music of today. OOs. 2000 to 2009, I listened mainly to Swedish synth pop bands and European trance techno bands. But I managed to find 3 artists from these years. Unfortunately, two of them are Swedish. Kent, band that I like very, very much. I have a little strange and fuzzy lyrics that I don't understand all the time, but they have marvelous production, marvelous melodies. I really like them very much. You can say that they're doing little dark rock music with a lot of synth pop in the edges. And this is Du och jag döden, You and Me Death, from 2005. I really like this band, and they have done also a couple of English records, so you can check them out. This is a girl that I wanted to have in my Mount Rushmore, so I mentioned her there in my Mount Rushmore video. Robin. This is from 2002, Don't Stop the Music, one of her absolute best albums. Dallas Superstars, Finnish techno band, trance band I like very much. Have such an energy, such a great dance music. This is higher stated 2 CD, containing one side with longer version of the songs and one more radio-oriented songs. So like this band very much. Then I also like to mention Ladytron, a British synth pop band, but I don't have any records with them. I heard them a lot on YouTube and so on, and other who has played records for me by them. So, but it's a great British synth pop band, Ladytron. Now, this decade, 2010 until this year, I had a little trouble, as I've said before. I don't listen to music of today hardly ever. It's missing a lot of soul. It's very crappy music today. But I have two bands that I like to mention. The Churches. I mentioned them in my answer to in a previous video. They have a little strange spelling, as you can see here. Churches is a band that have been foreband to Depeche Mode. They have a great singer, Lauren Mayberry. A great synth pop band that goes their own way but still has a foot in a traditional synth pop music. And also Australian band Pnau, also a band with strange spelling. Do some light atmospheric pop music with some synth pop elements in it. Check out the song with Elton John, Sad. It's a great one. So I don't know how many who will manage to pick out artists from every decade, but I did. So I hope you satisfied with my answer, Matthew Smith, and I'm sorry if this video was a little too long, but hey, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 decades to go through. So with that, I hope you have a very nice beginning of the weekend, as I said before. And until we see you the next time, so long.